Harriet Tubman was born around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland, into a world where freedom was denied before it could even be understood. Her birth name was Araminta Ross, and like millions of others, she entered life as property, not as a human being. From her first breath, her future was controlled by cruelty, fear, and forced obedience. From early childhood, Harriet witnessed the brutal reality of slavery. She saw families torn apart without warning, children beaten for small mistakes, and mothers crying in silence at night. Pain was normal, and hope was dangerous. Every day was ruled by commands, threats, and punishment, leaving no room for safety or rest. As a young girl, Harriet was rented out to different masters, some crueler than others. She worked long hours in fields, kitchens, and forests, often without enough food or sleep. Hunger followed her everywhere, but something inside her refused to surrender. Even as a child, her spirit remained unbroken. One day, while trying to protect another enslaved man, Harriet's life changed forever. An overseer threw a heavy metal weight meant for someone else. It struck Harriet in the head with devastating force. She nearly died, and the injury left her with lifelong pain, seizures, and sudden sleeping spells. After the injury, Harriet began experiencing powerful visions and vivid dreams. She believed God was speaking directly to her, guiding her toward a purpose greater than survival. These visions became her strength, giving her courage when fear tried to control her heart. As Harriet grew older, slavery tightened its grip. The work became harder, the punishments more severe, and the threats more terrifying. She lived with the constant fear of being sold away from her family forever, knowing that separation often meant never seeing loved ones again. In 1849, Harriet learned she was about to be sold to another master. She understood what that meant: endless suffering and permanent separation. That night, she made a decision that would define history. She would escape, or she would die trying. Without maps, protection, or money, Harriet fled under the cover of darkness. Every sound in the night could mean capture. Slave hunters and trained dogs searched for escapees, and the punishment for being caught was brutal and unforgiving. She traveled by night and hid by day, guided only by the North Star. Hunger, cold, and fear followed her every step, but she refused to turn back. Each mile north was a victory against a system built to break her. After weeks of danger, Harriet crossed into free territory. For the first time, she belonged to herself. She later said she looked at her hands to see if she was the same person, overwhelmed by the feeling of freedom she had never known. But freedom brought more than joy. It brought responsibility. Harriet could not forget those still enslaved. She believed her freedom meant nothing if her people remained in chains. Her heart pulled her back toward danger. Soon, Harriet returned to the South, risking her life again and again. She became a conductor on the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses and hidden paths that led enslaved people to freedom. She used coded songs, trusted allies, and secret signals. She traveled mostly at night, avoided main roads, and relied on faith and instinct. Each journey was filled with danger, but her determination never failed. Slave owners placed enormous rewards on Harriet's capture. Yet she was never caught. She carried a pistol, not out of cruelty, but for survival, knowing that fear could endanger everyone she guided. Harriet never lost a single passenger. She told those who followed her that freedom required courage and that turning back was not an option. Every step forward meant life. Over time, Harriet personally rescued more than 70 enslaved people and helped hundreds more escape to freedom. Her name spread in whispers, becoming a symbol of hope in the darkest places. When the Civil War began, Harriet offered her service to the Union Army. She worked as a nurse, cook, scout, and spy, risking her life behind enemy lines to gather vital information. In 1863, Harriet led the Combahee River Raid, becoming the first woman in United States history to lead a military operation. That single mission freed more than 700 enslaved people in one night. Despite her heroism, Harriet received little recognition or pay. She struggled financially for much of her life, yet she never complained. She believed she had done God's work and expected no reward from the world. Harriet also fought for women's rights, standing beside leaders who demanded equality and justice. She believed freedom must belong to everyone, regardless of race or gender. As she aged, her body weakened, but her spirit remained unbreakable. She spent her final years helping the poor and elderly, giving even when she had very little. Harriet Tubman passed away in 1913, but her story did not end with her death. It grew stronger, echoing through generations as a symbol of courage, resistance, and freedom. She was born enslaved, but she lived free in her soul. Harriet Tubman proved that one person, armed with faith and courage, can change the course of history. She did not wait for permission to be a hero. She chose action over fear, hope over despair, and freedom over silence. Because of her choices, hundreds walked into freedom. Harriet Tubman was not just part of history. She was history, written with sacrifice, bravery, and unshakable faith.